everyone, I'm Raina and I'm utterly and overly obsessed with rabbits, and I wish to have a rabbit farm someday in the future. Yeah, I love rabbits.
Beautiful. No, I always love starting with these teasers just so
Mhm.
listeners know you as Raina beyond just a university student. So,
Yes.
good to know. Neither did I know that from 2 years of high school working with you. Um,
Yeah.
for listeners, this is Raina Rao. She's a freshman at Monash University in Melbourne, Australia. She's majoring in both business as well as media communication studies. So today we'll just be having a conversation with Raina. We'll be hearing more about the choices she's made, the lessons she's learned along the way, as well as just some advice and insights which she'll be sharing to young high school students like yourself listening to the podcast as you prepare for this roller coaster of a ride that is university. So, welcome to University Unravel. I'm your host, Arya Daror.
Thank you.
Pleasure to
Thanks
have.
so much for having me here. Thanks. Yes.
Let's get right into it.
Yes.
Wanted to start with the interesting course selection of business as well as media communication studies.
Mhm.
So, where do you sort of see the intersection between these two?
So actually, initially, I was gonna do just media communication. So I think you know about this, but like before, I was gonna go to US for university, and then it switched to Australia. So when I was applying to universities in America, it was always like I was gonna do media communication or like journalism or something, because I always liked media. Like I liked writing a lot, and I thought like the power that media in general holds is like really crucial, and it's so big
Hmm.
because they basically communicate everything to the audience, right? So like they tell the audience a story, and then like obviously the public tend to like perceive it the way you know they want to, and they act upon it. So I thought that was a really cool idea and concept. And then this business, and I think I sort of like started gaining interest in like the field of business in high school, like by 11th and 12th. And like when you think about it in an industry, like because now I've heard a lot of people say that like major skills that really sell these days is like digital marketing or like copywriting. And like to do both, I feel like you need to like have some knowledge in like business and in media communication. So I was like, and like when I was picking for like my course for my degree in Australia, and like I was going through like Monash and other universities like in Melbourne and Sydney. So I came across a dual degree, business and media communication. I was really intrigued because like usually people tend to do like marketing and like media communication or something like that. Like when they're doing a dual degree, like more specific. But I feel like when you do business, it's like you're like taking every aspect of like the business degree, and you're like really learning it like separately with media communication, and you can integrate it the way you want to. Like you could do like HR probably, or you could do operation management, and then you could probably integrate it with like media communication or like a specialization you're doing in media communication. So
Hmm.
I think uh, that degree in general really pulled me towards it because I wanted the best of both worlds. And these are two major concepts, like two major skills that you need in any industry, especially when you like want a good position and stuff, when you want to be able to like effectively communicate to your consumer and stuff. So I thought, yeah, it's really helpful. And I also heard in like many places, like when I was researching, that generally dual degrees they tend to like gain more recognition in the eyes of a recruiter than like people with like a single degree, because essentially I'm getting a degree for like business and a degree for media communication. Yeah, like that's one of the reasons why I chose business and media communication.
Yeah, I think it's a very interesting combination,
Hmm.
and I feel like also opens up a wider range of pathways for you after you graduate
Yeah.
versus someone who just did business or someone who just did media, as someone
Hmm.
who would. In fact, so you gave in fact just a sneak peek into my next question. So you
Oh,
originally wanted to apply to the
yeah.
US and then made the shift to Australia.
Hmm.
I mean, walk us through the shift and why Australia over the US.
Yeah. So initially, when I first applied to America, like I got into universities, I finished obviously the application process. I even reserved my seat in like one university. But then what happened was that later, the crime rate in America itself started increasing, like a lot of school shootings and stuff. And in general, my parents are really possessive. Like they're very protective and possessive of me. So I feel like, you know, because I've never really lived independently before. And when you go to university, you tend to like have to start living independently, like, you know, making your own food sometimes. And, you know, yeah, you basically become responsible for your life. So they had like a condition. They wanted me to get into a university the same as my cousin, but then the university got back to me pretty late. So because of that, I couldn't really like, you know, go there. And I was looking at options in India and also options abroad, like, you know, in Australia itself. And then later, I think my cousin lives here in Australia.
Mhm.
So obviously, there's a lot of like safety in Australia itself because there's comparatively lower crime rate. I wouldn't say that there's no crime at all because there's a lot of youth crimes, but then it's still not as bad as it is in America.
Mhm.
And then I have family here. I think family is like a very crucial part. Like I said before, my cousin lives here, so I think because you have someone to look after you, like someone you can call when you're in an emergency situation and stuff like that. It sort of gives your parent gives your parents um, you know, a sort of like they feel more comfortable and more confident with, you know, you going abroad for education and stuff. And yeah, also I feel like sometimes you need to consider the aftermath, or not the aftermath, but like what you're gonna do after your education, like in general, like, you know, you need to like look at prospects, your job prospects and stuff after you finished your degree. And in general, Australia has amazing work-life balance.
Mm.
Everything here shuts off at like 5. Like even businesses, companies are all closed by 5. Malls tend to close by 5,
Wow.
and retail stores also. But then you still have like fast food joints and like, you know, restaurants and stuff that are open until late. But then yeah, like things start shutting down pretty quick. And yeah, the atmosphere is really nice and lively. Like it never feels you never feel alienated, honestly. Like it doesn't feel like you're in a different country because there's Indians everywhere. So there's a lot of Indians in Australia too, so it doesn't really feel that weird.
No, makes sense. I know in my case, it
Hmm.
was difficult to find family around, but I think
Hmm.
even having someone like a 2 hour drive away, but just mentally knowing that someone is there in case of an emergency, it was
Mm,
very reassuring for a parent, especially when a child has not gone and lived alone. So especially for us when it's the first time.
exactly.
So
Yeah.
I feel like in my case, more than me, it's my parents' mental satisfaction, which is also very important because I'm
Yeah, same, honestly.
uh,
Because like in your head, you're like, no, I can do it. Like I can live by myself. Like I need a chance. But then obviously, because it's your first time living abroad by yourself, your parents really need like some sort of reassurance. Like they need to like know that you're safe and you're gonna be fine. Yeah, I think that's really important.
it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, a lot of your friends, a lot of kids from Indus
Mhm.
ended up in the US, and I'm sure you're in touch with some friends and family
Yeah.
going to American universities. Just
Mhm.
curious about just from your personal experience versus what you're hearing from your friends in the US. What are just
Mhm.
some high level or macro differences between your experience in Australia versus their experience in the US?
So yeah, for me, we have lectures online, but then we have this thing called tutorials. So you basically it's like it's class discussion. So you watch your lectures online, you
Mm.
go through your reading for like the week, and then you just go in person and you have like a group discussion, a class discussion. And yeah, a lot of times it's very what I've realized is that a lot of times it's very collaborative. Like I don't know if it's the same in America, but then at least for Monash, like we tend to like collaborate a lot. Like we're always discussing with the people we're sitting next to. Like we're always given tasks, like a group discussion task. So I feel like that's really nice, especially when you're doing like business and media com. Like you really like interact with other people, get different perspective, and that's very important. Like you know, you get like a scoop into what other people are thinking. I think that's very cool. Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. That's something I also wasn't aware of, that you actually
Mhm.
watch lectures online and do the readings and then come prepared for a discussion
Yeah.
tutorial. say more about tutorials.
So what we usually do is they briefly like go through like the lectures and the readings, and obviously not entirely, but they cover like the main aspects of your readings and lectures, and then they like dive a little deeper. Like they talk about things that they haven't really spoken about in the lectures, and then based on that, like for example, for my PR class, uh, like on the first day, we sat on like everybody sat on different tables. And so each table had to create an agency. And for the rest of the semester, we were a part of this agency and we worked in this agency to create a media release, um, a good infographic, a PR campaign, and like, obviously decode like the role of social media and like promoting like a specific brand, like, Australian brands, promoting those brands via social media and how it would look different in each social media platform. Because these days, usually businesses don't tend to like post the same thing on each website. Like they tend to like their, they change the way they interact with their consumers on different platforms. So yeah, we had to like, deal with like pretty practical, like a lot of practical work in this agency itself. And I think that's really nice because it's collaborative first. And obviously when you're collaborating, you're getting ideas, like you're ideating, lots of ideation. You're getting an understanding of different perspectives, and you're basically creating an end product. And yeah, you get to like review whether it's really nice, whether like the campaign is effective, if it's feasible, if it makes sense, stuff like that. So that's for my PR class, but in other classes as well, like we tend to have like group discussions and then we report to the lecturer and stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, that's what we do in tutorials. And I think it's pretty helpful, honestly. Like I like that concept a lot.
Very interesting. No, I also personally feel that lectures are not the best way to consume information. It's just a very
Mhm.
strong opinion cemented in my mind at this point. And
Yeah.
the beauty of going to even a university with students from intelligent and driven students from all over
Mhm.
the world is that as much as you're learning from your professor, I feel like you should be parallelly learning from your classmates as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Really like this
No,
concept.
and then yeah, and like Monash also has like a lot of international students. Like the percentage of international students is really high. And so, like, there's different ethnicities always. Like, I've never been in a class with just Australian students. There's always a mixture of like Asian, Australian, Middle Eastern. And so, and like to a large extent, I've realized that like the country you come from sort of shapes your perspective, like shapes the way you think of stuff. Like, Indians in general think of stuff in a very different way when you compare them to like people from other ethnicity. Like, compared to Australians or compared to like people from China or like any part of Asia or like the Middle East. So when you're interacting with different cultures, you're sort of also understanding like, their culture and like how they've been taught stuff, like
Mm.
what kind of media they've been watching and like the media in their countries and stuff like that. Like how the media portrays the world in their countries, stuff like that.
Okay, I want to hear more about this, and because interesting concept, I would
Mhm.
love for you to say more.
Yeah.
Specifically, like in the classroom, how do you see these
Mhm.
cultural differences playing out when you're, let's say, when you as an Indian are interacting with, let's say, a Middle Eastern,
Mhm.
an Australian, or an American student?
So, I had this class last semester. It's called International Relations. So, in our class, we obviously tend to focus on like it's historical policies, not historical, but like policies that were made in the past that we still use to like analyze countries, how they collaborate or communicate with each other, how they coexist. So we had a bunch of like bunch of students from different ethnicities. We had someone from Middle East, we had Indians, we had Indonesians, we had people from Malaysia, and then we also had Australians. And so a lot of times, like the way they perceive a country is very different. Like sometimes the way they perceive India as well is pretty different. Like from like how they perceive China. Like most of them always see China as a growing power, which it is. It's growing and it's probably an established. It's probably, yeah, it's a superpower now. A lot of
Yeah.
people believe that it's a superpower now. And even with India, like a lot of people didn't know India as a superpower. I myself didn't know India as a superpower. But then I've come across a lot of articles in my research, like scholarly sources claiming that India is a superpower. And so
Mm.
I think it's sort of like the media you're exposed to, because even like this person from the Middle East, I think my this is a really funny incident. So my tutor, he asked him how everything was in the Middle East, and he was like, "It's fine, but I don't know about the future." And so he made this. So he was like, he made this observation. He's like, every single time I've spoken to someone from the Middle East and I've asked them how their country is doing, they're always like, "It's fine, but we don't know about the future." Like they're always like, they're
Mm.
never sticking to like one answer. They're always saying they're like always unaware of the future, and so they're telling you that they're unaware of it. You know what I mean?
Mm. Yeah,
Yeah.
cultural nuances and
Yeah. So it's like
moral.
the way they speak also is very different. Yeah. The way they respond to questions. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, cultural nuances. And tomorrow, when in the workplace you're interacting with a Middle Easterner, and when they say like we don't know what the
Hmm.
future, you'll remember this time, and you'll have it'll be not
Yeah.
unknown or
Hmm.
foreign. Um,
Yeah. It's like they're not really that hopeful, but then it's not like, yeah, they're not that hopeful, but then they're also not like, scared of the future. It's just that they leave everything to how it is going to be like later. They don't care that much about it at the moment. Yeah.
Interesting. No, I've had beautiful experiences with, let's
Hmm.
say, Chinese friends, Pakistani friends, countries
Yeah.
whom our media creates a lot of stereotypes and
Mm.
bias against. I've had beautiful experiences of breaking biases, breaking stereotypes, which I've held on to for years and which were just
No,
not well
yeah.
founded, especially when
That's
you interact with
true.
such people from different cultures.
Mm.
So, very,
Yeah, like a lot of times, I think I did not like say this correctly, but then like in my class, like against like Indians, a lot of people thought that India wasn't like as rich as other countries, but then India actually is, right? Like the way India is painted in the Western media is very different from how we see India as Indians like living in that country. So I think, yeah, the way like the media they're exposed to plays a lot of role in like their perception, and even the media we're exposed to. Like you said, there's a lot of biases, lots of stereotypes, but then people don't generally, you know, stick to these stereotypes, or they break these stereotypes for us, like when we meet them in person and when we actually interact with them.
beautiful. I'm glad we went on on a sort of rabbit hole on this discussion. I
Yeah.
always love to emphasize, and I always love to bring out personal anecdotes from students about
Hmm.
the value of studying in a multicultural environment and how it teaches you
Hmm.
so much beyond just the content you're learning, like the physical content you're learning,
Exactly.
subtle
Yeah.
interactions.
Yes.
Awesome. And so, I mean, you've been through the stress, panic, and confusion of university applications.
Hmm.
Because of this podcast, are high schoolers who are maybe currently working on the applications, and I'm sure insider advice and insight from you would be helpful. So, the way I'll phrase the question is, if you had to redo your university applications from scratch tomorrow, what would you do differently?
I think first, I feel like I wouldn't just look at one location. Like I said before, I was only focusing on America, like in the beginning. And I feel like that sort of like restricted my options. Like I really like sometimes what happens is that like things change very quickly. Like your family's perspective of you leaving the country might change, or the situation in the country you want to go to might change as well. So it's always good to like have like good range of options. Like always look at two or three more countries, and because sometimes you might not thrive in the country you're looking for. Like like it might not suit your personality. It might not help you grow as an individual. So it's always good to look at three other options. And I personally feel like I would have looked at like India, Australia as well, so I could pick a better choice, or I could finish my application process quicker and not really waste my time focusing on America. And I think Maybe so during my Australian application, I delayed a lot. Like, I think I had a 6 month gap, and I procrastinated a lot and like did not submit my documents on time. But then
Mm.
by the end of it, like within like the last 2 months, I got everything. I got done everything. Yeah, I got done with everything, like with my visa application and like with my GT clearance, fee payment, and everything. Except it was all done in a hurry. And I feel like it was a lot of stress for me, lots of mental tension, lots of stress for my parents.
Mm.
And I wasn't anticipating the best. I was really scared. And yeah, I feel like it sort of like tires you out, and you don't get to like spend a lot of time with your family because of that, because you're always on the go. You're always trying to like finish everything, submit the documents, and then you also have to go shopping and then, prepare and pack for uni. It
Mm.
gets done so quick, you barely even remember what you did the last 2 months.
Yeah.
So I feel like when you do everything beforehand, like when you finish a significant amount of work beforehand, like the rest of the time it's good to spend the rest of the time with your family or like people close to you, so you have good memories to take with you. That, and I feel like that will sort of make you emotionally strong as well when you're like having like sad moments in uni. Then I feel like that'll keep you going.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the summer break before university especially goes by in a
Yeah,
flash, and it's best to
yeah,
get done with the nitty-gritties of visas and
everything. Yeah, exactly.
applications and devote good time to enjoying your city, enjoying your friends, enjoying your family.
Mm,
A lot of this is something you're going to come back to after months, maybe a whole year. Uh,
yeah,
so this will be valuable memories which you'll cherish when you're away from home. Um,
exactly. I agree with you. I mean, that makes more sense because um a lot of times what happens is that like once you go to uni, like you miss home a lot. A lot of students tend to get really homesick, and so like I feel like the last few months of your summer break or like the last few months before uni, they hold like such an important aspect, like such an important they're really important memories because you look back at them, and I feel like to a large extent that's what keeps you going later in your uni life, because it's like you're waiting to go back home, you're waiting to meet your friends, and all those memories like play a huge role in like keeping you emotionally stable. I
yeah,
feel.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well said. Agreed. Perfect.
Yeah.
And from my understanding, also feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. With
Hmm.
the episode I did with Mehek on applying to Australia, as I
Hmm.
understand, extracurriculars don't play as big a role as the US. It's a lot more of a number,
Yes.
which specifically your grades. Even if there are
Hmm.
experiences, they have to be super relevant to the specific course you're doing. But the personal statement is something I want to dive a little deeper on with you.
Hmm.
Do you want to walk through how was your approach when writing your personal statement, plus any sort of best practices or strategies which you can share?
Yeah, sure. So, like you said before, extracurriculars are not that important, obviously compared to America, but it's still good to have. I mean, it's still good to have good extracurriculars, and good internship programs that you're part of, a good volunteering work, because it still gives you an edge.
Mm.
Although that might not be a main reason as to why you're getting into the university, it still gives you an edge over other candidates. And then yeah, the personal statement, it's really important, especially for Australian universities, because you talk about why you're choosing the course. Okay. It has to sound as genuine as possible. So you talk about why you're choosing the course, why you're choosing the country, why you're choosing that university, and why that city, or like, what makes that university different and what you think you'll gain from that university. Um, and I feel like the personal statement itself requires a lot of research, because you need to know your university in depth. Like you need to be able to identify reasons as to why it's like what sets it apart from other universities, and what makes you think that it'll what makes you think that it'll help you grow as a person, as an individual, professionally, and in terms of personal life, or and stuff like that. But yeah, your personal statement has to sound as genuine as possible. Always talk about how the course would benefit you back in your home country. always mention that you will be going back home,
Mm,
because they don't want you to come and settle in Australia, or yeah, they don't want you to come settle in Australia. You have to be mindful of what you write. So always talk about how you're going to go back to your home country, and how your course will benefit you in, like for me back in India, and the job opportunities your course the job opportunities you will get by doing this degree,
mm,
and the minimum base salary, or like you can talk about like how big companies are hiring people that do this degree, something along those lines. But I think the most important aspect is, why do you want to do this course? Because for me, at least in my personal statement, I sort of like spoke about how how my throughout my high school, like my high school course selection, or even like back when I was in CBSE, how all of that technically like sort of influenced me into like picking business and media communication, and how I engaged in like internships or other extracurricular activities like months, or like other courses or workshops, to like further my understanding in these subjects or in these areas of knowledge. So I feel like, yeah, the more examples you give as to how you've been persuaded by this course all along, the more serious it gets. The more the person reading your essay or your personal statement will be like, yeah, it makes sense. Like this is why she wants to do the course, right? And so
mm.
it has to be detailed, maybe not overly detailed, but you have to walk through it, and you also need to like um yeah, you need to like be able to sort of, it has to be appealing. Don't make it very long, because they're going to get bored of it. Like they're not going to read a personal statement that's like 3 pages long. It has to be short, concise, and you have to stick to the point. Don't deviate, and always make sure you address like the main important questions, like why are you coming, what opportunities it holds for you back in your home country, and yeah, like the other questions that are listed out throughout. Yeah.
Specifically for the personal statement, my understanding from whatever you've said is that
Mhm.
knowing your university and knowing the course well is important. And it's also important not to, I'm guessing it's not a good idea to just copy paste the same statement to 10 different universities,
Oh,
even if
no, you cannot. Yeah. I mean, you have to make changes obviously, because your university is different. So you'll have to make changes according to that. You have to make changes according to the course, because a lot of like when I was applying to Monash University had this degree, but then a lot of other universities, like the ones in Sydney and even in like the other ones in Melbourne, they did not offer the same degree. So I had to write a personal statement for different universities.
Hmm.
Maybe your journey can be the same, like why you're doing this course can be the same, but when you talk about the university, it has to be different. Like that has to be different for sure.
W-
Yeah.
Apart from info you find on the official website of the university,
Mhm.
any other recommendations for places to research and get a deeper understanding of the university and the course?
I think a lot of times people tend to like give reviews. Like Monash has like, I mean, it's not obviously it's not a website by Monash, but then it's this website that has like reviews by students for Monash, and you can like go through those reviews, and you can see what the public opinion is in general. Maybe you could write from that as well, and then you can obviously use the university website, the course handbook, when you're talking about why you want to do the degree. And I think just general research on Google, like as to like what offerings you might have after you finish a business degree or a media communication degree or any dual degree in general. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to find a ton of information.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
information scarcity in our day and age is not an issue. It's more of finding the right resources and like
Yeah.
using 10
Mhm.
which makes sense for you personally, and then going through them in depth, and then from that crafting the person.
Yeah.
Um,
Yes, exactly.
I think it's an interesting aspect of the application. There's no one formula for getting it right. I think it's
Mhm.
important to make it as you as possible, like as personalized and authentic and genuine. Um,
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, this was a lovely segment on the entire on some of your decisions in terms of Australia and the course you're doing,
Hmm.
as well as the application process and the experience at an Australian university. We'll fast forward a little bit and talk about the last couple of months at Monash specifically. And I'd like to
Yes.
start by just throwing you the question, and I'm sure there are a couple of things. What have just been some big shocks or surprises about going to Monash, which you weren't well prepared for? You just weren't expecting as much.
For Monash in general, obviously, my first 3 days at Melbourne when I first arrived, I was a little nervous about my first day of uni. But then there was a lot of international crowd, honestly, like lots of international people, lots of international students, and that was sort of reassuring for me. Lots of Indians as well, so it felt like nice. I felt more comfortable to like be around them, and yeah, I it didn't feel weird, and I wasn't as underconfident as I was before. Another thing is in general, like there's a huge difference between high school classes and university, and I think that's something that that was really that I wasn't expecting, because in high school generally there's a lot of spoon feeding,
Mm.
and attendance is mandatory and stuff. But over here, like I think in general, even like not only in Monash but in universities all over the world, there's no spoon feeding. Like they're not gonna help you with your assessments the way they did in high school.
Mm.
Like how you do your assessment is based on you. If you go through your lectures and readings, it's all based on you.
Mm.
How you understand the assessment is also all up to you, right? So you submitting it on time is up to you as well. It's for your grade. And so like barely any spoon feeding and a lot of research work. Like a lot of research work. It tires you off. Like there's like we've like at Monash at least we've had assessments where we've had to like provide a minimum of 8 scholarly sources, and to get to that 8 scholarly sources, it takes a lot of time because you have to find relevant information because they're not going to give you a grade. The grading system, um, I don't know. I feel like the grading in Monash at least it's really tough, and they grade you really. I don't know. It's not that easy because your information has to be as relevant as possible. It cannot be old information, and it has to like make sense. It has to make sense to the lecturer. It has to be related to your readings in some way. So I feel like there's a lot of work you have to put into university, and it's not as chill as how your YouTube videos make it seem, or how like Netflix shows make it seem. Like a lot of work, and even the people you meet. Like initially, you're just. I feel like initially when you move out of your home country, for me, I was a little sad because like the friends you make back in India, they stay with you forever. Not only the friends in India, but like all over the world, I think people when they go from their home, when they come from their home country, like they tend to like make thick friends. And so when you move to another country, like the people you hang out with, the people you meet are so different. But then after a point, you get used to them. And I think, yeah, like on the first day of Monash, I was not seeing, like I didn't see like me hanging out with so many people and stuff. I didn't see that coming. But now, like, yeah, I do hang out with like a lot of people, and I mean, I'm happy about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, in high school, if I don't show up to a class, a teacher is worried, or they call the principal, or they
Mhm.
ask, where is Arya? As you said very
Yeah.
bluntly, in a lot of your classes, a professor
Mhm.
could care less. The lesson will go on without you. I think it's a good lesson in just self motivation generally, because
Yeah.
like spoon feeding is not going to serve you once you graduate in the working world. So I think it's good
True.
for the working world where you have to be a self-directed learner, you have to be self-motivated, you have to like figure it out, find resources, rely on, let's say, classmates, upperclassmen,
Mhm.
alumni to help you with an assignment, if a professor is not willing to give you that much time. So
Yeah.
I think
No, I agree with you.
I think
Yeah.
the fact that throwing you into the deep end and the fact that it is different, uncomfortable, harder is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a good transition from
Hmm.
the teenagers we're in high school to like the adults will be once we graduate.
Exactly. It's like you're entering the adult world, and so everything like you're also indulging in like more practical work. Like the assessments you get, get more intense, and they get like more practical as you go on with your semester. And basically, you're responsible for everything that happens in your university life. Like the university isn't going to take responsible if sorry, the university isn't going to be taking responsibility if you fail a class, if you don't show up to a class, if you don't understand, if you don't understand the lecture video or anything. Like you are the one. You're responsible to like get done with your work, finish your assessment, submit to your lecturer on time, and report to class and stuff. It's all based on what you like, what how you're going to go about your university life.
Yeah, I think time flies, especially in
Yeah.
university. A semester can fly by without you achieving much,
Hmm.
because of some sort of lack of self motivation or even direction. One practice which I started at Minerva, which I'd love to continue, is every semester set about 5 or 6 macro intentions. What do I want to achieve this semester?
Yeah.
And then review that at the end of the semester. How well did I do? Again next semester.
Mhm.
If something was not well achieved, continue. If something was achieved, add in another intention. But I think just entering
Yeah.
the journey with intention, even for the 4 years, like who's the kind of person I want to be day one
By the end, yeah,
um
exactly. Yeah. No,
it,
it's always good to write down goals and like where you see yourself. And I think that's sort of like that's a very good motivating factor.
Hmm.
Like because I've started journaling too recently, and I tend to like write like what I want to see myself become in the future, you know? And I feel like that sort of like drives you. Basically, it makes you want to do better because you have goals written and you have to cater to those goals. It's like I have to meet those goals. It's something to be proud of as well. Like when you actually like reach those goals, you're just genuinely happy for yourself, and it helps you grow as an individual a lot.
Hmm. You again touched upon this briefly in the previous
Hmm.
answer, but I want to do a slightly deeper dive into just being
Hmm.
away from home. I think it's something that too many of us take for granted, and we feel
Yeah.
by the freedom and autonomy of adult life. But I think in
Hmm.
some form or the other, we do end up missing home. And for someone like you, it's just been a couple months, and you're coming home soon, so that must be exciting. Just
Hmm.
curious about the journey through homesickness and what it has taught you along the way.
I feel like um I feel like when you go through uncomfortable path, you tend to become a stronger person, like mentally, and also like in terms of like how you lead through your life, you become more independent. But luckily enough, like I stay with my cousin and his fiance, so I'm really grateful that has happened to me because it's like it's home away from home. You know what I mean? Like it's still very sweet for me. So, or besides that, like usually when I miss my parents or like my family members or anybody, I always stay in touch with them. Like I talk to my parents like at least twice a day or like more than twice. So I tend to like talk to them a lot. And so when I feel like homesick, I sometimes I let myself feel it. I let myself feel that way because it sort of um it sort of tells me what I'm here for. Like it reminds me why I'm here, like to become a better person, a better version of myself, to become more independent, to be able to live life the way I want to, and like to make my decisions by myself. And so like it reminds me of why I chose this path and why I'm going through this struggle of like being away from home. But then also sometimes I tend to like distract myself and like suppress that feeling. Maybe like I go hang out with my friends or I watch something, a comfort show or like comfort YouTube videos, or I listen to music, or I journal, like I write down my emotions and stuff, or I just talk to people. Like I feel like I feel like I'm a very big talker. Like I like to talk a lot, and so I tend to like call my friends or I call my parents and I just tell them everything I'm feeling, and like it helps me, you know, get that stress off of myself, and I feel more calm and more like composed, and I feel like especially when you're moving abroad, it's always good to have like a good relation with your parents. like a strong relation, because in the end, they're the ones that are gonna comfort you. They're the ones that are gonna be really happy for you when something good happens to you. So it's always good to maintain a really good relationship with them, because um you really understand what it's like to not have them in your life. You know how your life is going to be without them. And like ever since I've come here, honestly, I've been very grateful to my parents, because back in India, I wouldn't say I used to take them for granted, because that has never happened. But obviously, I was used to living a nice happy life where I didn't have to work. And now that I'm here, like, I have to contribute, and I have to like go in public transport and everything, no car and stuff. So obviously, like, there's a lot of things that like have changed in my that has changed in my life, and I think I've started to be more grateful, and I've started to feel more gratitude towards the life I had before.
Mhm.
Because I mean, in India at least, like the upbringing, like the atmosphere we've all been in, we're all very pampered. I feel
Yeah.
like our parents, like they've always catered to our needs, and they're always caring, and like they're always taking care of us, giving us whatever we want. But once you come here, it's like you have to make decision as to how you spend your money. You have to make decisions as to what you want to eat and how you're going to cook your food, stuff like that. And I feel like in general, lots of gratitude.
Yeah, no, I
Mhm.
mean, I don't even feel a need to follow up. I think you covered a lot of different aspects there. But
Yeah.
just two things, if I were to recap, again, correct me if I'm getting anything wrong.
Hmm.
One is taking the whole sickness, holding it, and letting it drive you and motivate you, because there's a reason you're so far away from home. It is to grow and mature.
Yeah.
Um,
Exactly.
and number two is, I think the discomfort also teaches you a lot. And if nothing else, it'll teach you a ton of gratitude for everything which you took for granted at home. When
Yes.
you come back on the summer break, which has happened to me and which will happen to you, I'm sure,
Hmm.
is you will not be able to take some things for granted. You will not be able to take a basic home cooked meal for granted, a car which drives you
Yeah.
around, family, home, your city, which we easily took for granted for, in my case, the first 17 years of my life. So
Yeah.
I
Exactly. There's a lot of things you learn. I entirely agree with you. Yeah. Like you summed it up really well. Yeah.
awesome. Awesome. In fact, I'm personally curious to know the answer to this question, even beyond listeners. But in
Hmm.
your observations over the last couple months, what's a dangerous trap or a bad habit that many university students get into, which is probably good
Hmm.
to avoid?
First thing is, I feel like once you're done with high school, even with me, like I feel like in general, high schoolers, it's like a huge stress is taken off of us. First, because we're done with our boards, so we feel very relaxed. And like throughout my life, honestly, like before I came to university, I always thought university was a very chill place. Like I
Hmm.
always like obviously there's gonna be a lot of exams, like quizzes and stuff, lots of assessments. But I expected it to be very like I expected the toughness level to be very moderate, or maybe like less than moderate, if anything. Right. And I thought like everything happens at your own pace. Like you like the way you work towards your assessments, like the assessments are probably not going to be that hard, and you can work through your assessments based on your own pace. But that does not happen. You have to work on your assessments from day one. I feel like ever like after I finished my first semester, I realized that like it's always good to be prepared from the very beginning, because a lot of times your assessments clash, and you like probably not you somehow like not you don't have enough time to focus on both of them at once, so you have to finish assessments before. But then because of our ideology that like university is probably going to be chill, a lot of students, they tend to take the first year for granted. A lot of them go clubbing, a lot of them party a lot, they really explore their extroverted side
Hmm.
throughout their first year, which is a good thing. I think clubbing is really, I mean, I'm not saying you should go clubbing, but I'm just saying that it's good to network and stuff. It's good if that's satisfying your social life, it's good. But maybe not throughout your entire first year, because your first year is your foundation. It's your stepping stone. Although like, although your university is covering, although your course for your first year, all of your units are covering most of what you already know. It's always nice to revisit those topics because there's always something you're gonna learn again.
Hmm.
Right? There's always something you're gonna find out, and there's always something to gain from. So lots of networking also. It's always good to be in touch with your professors, I feel, because like a lot of people they tend to like not like email their professors. It's always good to establish a bond, so at any given time you can always ask your professors doubts or anything if you have. So I think one trap is obviously they always tend to focus on their social life in their first year, which is not a good idea. I feel like it's important to pay attention to classes, maintain good relations with your professors, and speak to them not regularly, but like have like good conversations with them, so you learn something extra, right? And then another trap is the feeling of hopelessness and defeat. A lot of people, rather than learning from homesickness, like we just discussed, rather than feeling that discomfort and like growing from it, a lot of people tend to settle for it. They
Hmm.
tend to imagine I feel like a common thought a lot of people feel is that, yeah, my life is going to be like this, like there's no going back. I'm like, I deserve it for coming back home, like for going out of my home country. I deserve this feeling. Like a lot of people, I feel like, feel that way, but no, like it's okay to feel vulnerable. You're going to be fine. This is all temporary. Like the emotions you're feeling are all temporary. You're going to work towards it. You're gonna obviously, you're gonna move out of it. You're gonna do better, and things will start working out eventually. Never ever feel like you're gonna like never ever give up on something. Never ever feel hopeless, because you're always like, things are going to work out for you at some time, at some point or the other. And I feel, yeah, I feel like you should never feel defeated or like hopeless, because although like, things might seem tough right now, they're going to somehow find their way through you in a good way.
Hmm. Well, I
Yeah.
remember discussing just on a previous episode how the first 2 weeks or the first month, some people the first semester can feel like rock bottom. But the beauty about being on
Mm.
rock bottom is that it only gets better. So next semester gets better,
Yeah,
it gets better. So maybe
exactly.
it's a difficult time and a difficult place to be in, but I feel like pushing through that gives you a lot of confidence, which will help you throughout
Hmm.
the university journey to actually
Mm.
make it through until graduation day. Also,
Yes, I agree with you.
also love how you brought up first year is generally not the most academically challenging, but it can be a good
Mm.
foundational year for just setting up for success for the next 3 years in terms of
Exactly.
networking, in terms of, as you said, professors, getting a good routine just in terms of your study schedule,
Mm. Hmm.
finding resources which are valuable. Um,
Hmm.
Plus, some level of social life, I think, is good also because you're in a new environment. And so just building
Yeah.
connections which you can deepen. So
Hmm.
it's not a year to waste or for time pass. I think it's a good foundational year. And that's what will make
Exactly.
years, that's what allow you to work at an intense and a good pace because you've got a strong foundation.
Yes, and I feel like in your first year as well, because you tend to like when you start focusing on stuff off campus, you tend to like not make good use of stuff on campus. Like there's a lot of events that happen, networking nights and stuff. I feel like you should go to those events, focus on those events, join clubs, because you meet a lot of people in clubs. First of all, second, you learn a lot from clubs. There's a lot of club events as well. Then you also have like sports clubs and stuff, and those are really nice too, because they're always keeping you on track in terms of fitness. Maybe you don't go to the gym, but if you join a badminton club, you're still physically active. You know what I mean? Yeah, so you're still doing something and you're also networking at the same time, and I think that's really helpful. I feel like it's always good to know your campus. Like it's really important to get to know your campus, because the more you're well versed with your campus, first, you know what you can find where, like the type of people, where you can find the right people. You know the type of events your campus holds, and you can make the best use of those events. And third, maybe you can guide someone in the future.
Mm.
You can be there for someone in the future, maybe the next student coming for their first year, first semester. You can be there for them, and they'll always be grateful to you. So I feel like these are like a few things that are really important as a first year student. Yeah, and I feel like you should. It's very important to know your university, because in the end of the day, when you're done with your degree and someone asks you, "Oh, do you know this place in your campus?" You don't want to be like, "No, I don't know about that. I didn't know that existed," because like you didn't make use of a good opportunity. You know?
It's your dignity at stake.
Yeah.
What's been one super interesting or unique event or conference hosted at Monash which you gained a lot from over the last couple of months?
So although it was my first semester, and I had a lot of assessments and stuff, so I couldn't really like go to like many club events or like many Monash events as well. But I did try to like go to like the major events, like the first day of like the club members like meeting up and stuff like that. So I went to those, and I actually like made a lot of friends, and I still stay in touch with them, and they're really helpful. Like they give me tips as to how I can meet new people at university, how I can finish my assessments. They even told, like, a lot of people actually, I feel like, especially your seniors, like people from your second year or third year, they're really helpful because they've been in your position before, and they literally know a lot of services that your university provides.
Mm.
So a lot of times before, like during my first semester, like in the very beginning, I think I met a few people here and there, and I sort of like interacted with them, and I started connecting with them on social media as well. And they gave me so many tips as to how I can finish my assessments and how I can get them checked before submitting. So Monash actually has these one-on-one feedbacks where you schedule a meeting with someone from the particular department that your assessment is from, like the subject or the unit, and people that actually have like some sort of knowledge regarding that unit, they'll get on a meeting with you on a Zoom call, and they'll read your essay for you. They'll give you they'll give you they'll tell you areas of improvement based on your structure, on your content, and your tone or your language. And that's really helpful because that's like getting someone's, I wouldn't say validation, but like it's like getting someone's opinion before you submit your essay, and you can improve it. And it's a professional.
Mm.
So I feel like those are really important services that you should know of,
Yeah.
because in the end they help you improve your grade, right? And you'll only, I feel like most of the time, although university has these services uploaded on their website and they're putting them on their story on their social media, a lot of times you tend to skip them, or you don't you're I mean, yeah, a lot of times you tend to skip them, or you might not actually like look at them and stuff. But then when you interact with more people, and when you're actually going through the problem, that's when someone will come and help you.
Mm.
So it's always good to go to events on like the first day of uni, first of all, and then the first day of that club itself, like the first meeting of all the members for that club. It's always good to go because I feel like that's like when the max number of people come. Like everybody that's enrolled to be a part of the club actually come, and you get to like network, and it's super fun. Like clubs are really fun, and I would recommend people to join clubs.
Wow. I mean, I certainly wish Minerva offered us that service, which you were saying of the one-on-one feedback. Unfortunately, our
Yeah.
just contact a friend and getting him to read our essay. But that sounds like a
Mhm.
super amazing resource on campus.
Yeah.
Maybe it's
Mhm.
underrated. Like not everyone knows that this
Yes.
exists.
It's really helpful. Trust me, I was literally struggling with an assessment with one of my friends. He's in his, I think, second year or third year. That's when he told me about it. And I was so surprised. I literally booked it the next second, and it's really helpful. Like, they literally go through your entire structure. They'll ask you to break down paragraphs if it's a little too long. I think it's really helpful. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, lovely. It's been, we've covered a lot of buckets on this conversation specifically. We talked about
Mhm.
your major, we talked about Monash, we talked about applying to Australia, studying in Australia, touched upon things like homesickness and clubs and underrated resources on campus. That specific
Yes.
is probably useful to anyone who's actually applying to Monash as a student. So I'm sure
Mhm.
that is valuable. Um, would like to wrap up the this section of the conversation with just what is one or just a few intentions you have for your next semester at Monash.
Um, I think first, like I said before, I want to attend more university events because I think my first semester was more about figuring out how the assessments are and how to work through them. Um, so I think I feel like I can get past like the second semester much better because I now know like how I know like the kind of routine I need for my assessments and how I go through my readings and lectures. So I feel like I want to attend more university events and even club events because they're really helpful in terms of like gaining information, like the next step you want to take after you finish your first year because you've got to do internships from your second year. So I want to go for more networking events and more events in general, make more friends, hang out with more people, and I think stay on track, finish my assessments on deadline, on like not right before the deadline. I want to be done with them like at least like 2 days before prior to the deadline. So, I can just relax and not stress as much. Yeah, and I feel like as of now, things are going well for the second semester. I got my classes and the timetable is all set. But yeah, hopefully I can make the most of it this semester and I just want to stay on track and gain as much information as possible, absorb everything. Yeah.
Lovely. And now you said it on a public platform, so we can hold you accountable as well. And I can
Yes.
update as to how these are going. In fact, these are just you unintentionally set a bunch of goals for next semester, which is what we were
Mhm.
talking about previously over the conversation.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm glad I asked you this question. Awesome. Well, this has been great. We can't
Mhm.
finish off the episode without doing a quick fast fire round, which is the way I love to wrap up all our episodes. So I just have
Yes.
a few quick questions for you. We'll just throw them at you like bullets and feel free to answer in just one phrase or one sentence. They can
Sure.
be super brief. What's a specific piece of artistic creation or just media that is personally your favorite?
So I recently just watched Kalki. So I'll say I really like Kalki. But then apart from that, like I generally like films like La La Land and The Devil Wears Prada because they're so closely connected to art and passion and dedication. I feel like I feel like they sort of like put you on track. They motivate you to like do better. I feel
What's something you love and something you dislike about living in Melbourne?
what I dislike is the weather because it's so unpredictable. Melbourne has serious mood swings, and what I love is I think the vibe. It gives you like you feel like a main lead in Melbourne because obviously because of like the natural beauty, the people, and how beautiful the city is. The city is really nice. Yeah.
Any stereotype or just a bias you had against Australians, which was proven wrong over the last couple of months?
Mm, it has to be the fact that Australians are racist because they are not. Like a lot of people when I was coming to Australia told me that Australians tend to be racist. And I've been sent so many reels where there's like these weird, like not weird, there's these animals and insects popping out of nowhere in like a person's room and stuff, and they're like, this is Australia. But no, it's not. I've not encountered a single insect in my room as of now. And yeah, and Australians tend to be they're really nice people. They're really nice, very talkative, and they're not racist at all. Yeah.
Very interesting. And in fact, if a listener wants to double confirm this, Mehek said the exact same thing about insects
Yes.
being all over the
It
place.
does not happen. Trust me. Like I don't know why people send us those reels, but like, yeah.
What's any one wise quote or just piece of wisdom which has stuck with you over the years, which you'd love to share on the episode?
A wise quote. Um, there's like I think there's two. There's one by Uguay. I cannot remember the exact same, like the exact quote, but like it's something about The past is history, the future is mystery, and today is present, and that's why it's a present. Like, that's why it's a gift. I think something like that. I cannot quote it, but yeah, I think I think the quote basically tells you to enjoy today as much as possible and to like not always be stuck in the past or always be concerned about the future. I feel like I tend to do that a lot too. Like I always think about the past, like the mistakes I made, or sometimes I'm just a little anxious about the future. But then it's always important to live in the present and treat today as a gift because if not, like I feel like it's just a lost memory. You're not going to remember any of this. You're not going to remember the pain, the hard work you're putting in. Always treat it as a gift because a lot of people don't have what you have, and you should be grateful of having that. And another thing is success is never final, and failure is never fatal or final. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's really important because when you do something good, it doesn't mean it's the end of the world, and there's nothing else. There's nothing stopping you to do better. I feel like there's always something you can improve in. And just because you're successful today doesn't mean you won't be failure tomorrow. At
Mm,
some if it's written for you, you will. And so it's always good to give your best, put in the best effort possible. And if you fail, then it's not final. Like there's definitely a time you're gonna be successful. It's always good to learn from failure and move ahead. Because when my parents asked me not to go to US, I was literally so disappointed. Like I was so sad because all my friends were going and I really wanted to go too because obviously I was looking forward to university.
mm,
Yeah, but I'm actually grateful that I'm here in Australia because I wouldn't experience the stuff I've experienced here and I wouldn't meet the people I've met here. So
mm.
yes,
What's the best piece of advice which a senior has given you over the last few months?
best piece of advice. I think um I mean this is okay. So I met this person. This is really funny. So I met this person on the first day of uni, and I've never seen that person after. Like I just so this person told me she asked like basically we were just having a normal conversation, and she asked me if I was a first year student. I said, and I said I was, and she's in her fourth year, and she was like, "Trust me, university gets done in a snap." And like I mean, yeah, my first time got done so quick, but then it also like made me realize I think to like not take it that seriously and to like just have as much fun as I can because I don't want to remember it as something negative. I want to remember it as something happy and something fun. I want to have a good feeling about university, and it also means that I need to make the most out of my university life because it gets done super quick, and I might as well enjoy it and live my uni life to the fullest.
And lastly, would be what is one specific dish from home that you've missed a lot since coming to Australia?
One specific dish. I miss South Indian breakfast a lot. Like I used to hate. Do you know what upma is? Yeah, I used to hate upma and like in general South Indian breakfast like dosa, idli. Like not hate, but I wouldn't prefer it all the time. But after coming here, I literally realized its importance. I cannot live without South Indian breakfast. I think.
Beautiful. And lastly, if we had to wrap up or sum up this entire episode, and if you
Mhm.
had to leave one message with a listener, someone younger than you who's about to embark on this journey of university and then life at large, what would you tell them?
I think first is um, don't stress. Don't stress. Um, don't do something because your friends are doing that. Don't apply to a place because your friends are applying there. Apply to a university, apply to a location or country um, which will help you thrive, which will develop you as a person, and which you think is the right fit for you. Strive, strive, work hard. Don't take your grades for granted. Don't take extracurriculars for granted. Um, Always have good relations with your parents, with your friends, with literally everybody, because in the end, I feel like they will be your emotional support once you go to university. And if you're not doing well, because when you go abroad, in the beginning, it can be very isolating because, like, in the first few days, you might not make as many friends as you expected you would, or you might not meet as many people that vibe with you. So it's always good to still maintain contact with people from back home, very trustworthy people, and they'll obviously help you in your life, like mentally. And I think
Mm.
mm, I'm thinking, yeah, I think always take advice, always ask. If you have questions, it's always good to ask, take advice, and go through your course handbook or your course material, go through your university material, and be aware. Be as aware as possible. Ask questions, interact. It's always best to know more than less. Yeah,
Mm, that's a good way to wrap up. It's always best to know more than less. Uh,
yeah.
that's sort of a good summary of the intention of the podcast is itself is to
Mhm.
just create a database of information, of views and advice and opinions of students like yourself from all over the
Exactly.
world
Yeah.
university.
Mhm.
And there's no harm in knowing 100 things, even if you only implement 10, because sometimes to find those 10, you have to hear the 100 things. So
Exactly. Yeah.
searching for those nuggets of wisdom or those pieces of advice that stick and resonate with you personally. Um,
Yes. That's very important in general. Yeah. For the podcast, I feel like the first for the podcast to like have so many viewers and like so many. I'm sorry, for the podcast to have so many guests to talk and stuff. It's really, I mean, I love the questions you've put forward as well. Like, it really got a lot of things out of me, like a lot of information and stuff. And I had a lovely time interacting with you. And I think I hope the podcast really helps the listeners, the viewers, and the young audience to like find good direction
mm,
and to make their way through university life in a comfortable and a good pace.
brilliant. If as we're wrapping up this conversation,
Mhm.
if a listener after listening to the episode wants to connect with you or has follow-up questions, what's a good way to reach out to you?
I think maybe they can text me on Instagram or like Snapchat or anything like that. I'm available on uh, mostly all social media platforms or even WhatsApp. Yeah, I think that's some way they could reach out to me. And yeah, I'd be looking forward to any questions they have, or I'd have a lovely time going through what they felt about the podcast, or I'd love to answer their questions. Yeah.
So yes, please look in the description. I'll put the Instagram handle as well as Snapchat and WhatsApp if you'd like to connect further with Raina. But other than that, thank you so much for your wise words on University Unravel. And I really enjoyed the conversation and was a pleasure to have you on the podcast, Raina.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me here. I had a lovely time discussing these questions with you, and I'm looking forward to more episodes by you. Like I'm looking forward to watching all the episodes you've shot. Yes. Thank you so much.
All right, that was the episode. To all the young listeners out there, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you feel more energized, inspired, and curious for the exciting university journey that lies ahead. Stay tuned. Many more wonderful episodes to be released on Uni Unveiled across a diversity of majors, countries, institutions, and speaker profiles. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Uni Unveiled. This podcast is just a small part of a much larger initiative undertaken by my family called Serene Strokes to spread positive sparks of growth, transformation, and joy among all our audience. Check out our official website www.serenestrokes.com. In the description and comments, please feel free to share other topics and questions which you would love to hear about from our different speakers on this podcast. Until then, take care and remember that this big word, university, may not be as scary or as intimidating as you think it is. Thank you for listening to Uni Unveiled.